Have you ever been denied boarding just because of a joke that sounded harmless? It sounds ridiculous, until one sentence turns a normal airport morning into questioning, a missed flight, and a very expensive lesson. Most passengers don't break rules on purpose. They're tired, rushed, and just trying to get to the gate. But flying has its own weird little rule book, and some of the rules are not obvious until you break them. So before your next flight, here are 9 things that can get you flagged, fined, denied boarding, or hated by the entire cabin. And we're starting with that exact mistake that people still think is funny until it ruins their trip. Have you ever said something as a joke and regretted it 1 second later? At the airport, that 1 second can get expensive. There are plenty of things to joke about when flying, but never joke about bombs, weapons, hijacking, or terrorism. Even if you're just whispering to your friend because you think you're being hilarious, it doesn't matter if you say it at TSA, at the gate, or once you're already on board. Certain words get treated like real threats first, jokes second. Airport staff and airline crews are required to take threats seriously. They can't just laugh and say, "He seems like a harmless guy who makes terrible jokes." Once certain words come out, the system has to respond. That can mean police, questioning, delays, missed flights, or getting removed from the airport entirely. And it doesn't matter if you say, "I was only kidding." That sentence has never magically fixed an airport security situation. So leave the travel comedy set at home. Stick with safe material, like making fun of airline coffee. But words aren't the only things that can turn the airport against you. In fact, what you wear can get you stopped before you ever reach your seat. And the reason isn't what most passengers think. Your outfit probably won't matter until it suddenly becomes the reason you don't fly. Airlines aren't fashion police. Nobody's asking you to wear a blazer on a 6 a.m. flight to Orlando. Sweatpants, hoodies, leggings, sneakers, all fine. But clothes with offensive language, hateful messages, graphic images, or anything the airline considers too revealing can create a problem before you ever reach your seat. And once the airline decides your outfit crosses the line, arguing at the gate can leave you standing in the terminal, holding a boarding pass that suddenly feels very decorative. Hygiene can create the same problem. Nobody expects you to smell like fresh laundry after a long connection through Denver. But if an odor is strong enough that other passengers complain, the crew may have to get involved, especially before the plane leaves the gate. Your seatmate didn't pay $400 to share a tin can with your personal ecosystem, so maybe pack a clean shirt and some deodorant. Now, if you think managing your own clothing is tough, wait until you see the chaos people cause trying to sneak their family members on board. And no, I don't mean human ones. We've all seen the news stories of people trying to board with emotional support, peacocks, or hamsters. Don't be that person. In the US, a service animal for air travel generally means a trained dog that helps a person with a disability. Emotional support animals, and he keeps me calm when people recline their seat, animals, are not treated the same way under current air travel rules. That doesn't mean pets are banned from planes. Many airlines allow small cats or dogs in a carrier under the seat, as long as you book it properly, pay the fee, and follow the airline's rules. But you cannot just show up with a surprise pet and hope everyone finds it charming. The awkward part is, the airline doesn't have to solve that problem at the gate just because you brought the animal there. Airlines care about the carrier size, the animal's behavior, the route, the paperwork, and the rules at your destination, especially on international flights where quarantine laws apply. Your dog may be family, and your cat may be emotionally superior to everyone in row 18. I respect that. But the gate agent still needs the paperwork. Once you actually make it past the gate and into your seat, the next mistake is something half the cabin does immediately. It won't crash the plane, but it causes a hidden problem for the pilots. Every flight has that moment. The crew says, "Please switch your devices to airplane mode." And suddenly, half the cabin starts tapping their phones like they've been caught texting during a final exam. Now, is your one phone going to make the plane fall out of the sky? No. That's the dramatic movie version. But airplane mode still matters. Hundreds of phones searching for signal can create interference and distractions the crew does not need, especially during critical parts of the flight. The bigger idea is this. When the crew gives a safety instruction, don't treat it like a suggestion from your phone's terms and conditions. If they say switch it, just switch it. The True Crime Podcast will still be unsolved when you land. And unlike your phone, the next item in your bag can actually catch fire. Power banks are great until they are in the wrong bag. Spare lithium batteries, power banks, camera batteries, and extra rechargeable battery packs should stay in your carry-on or personal item, not in checked luggage. And if your carry-on gets gate checked, take the power bank and spare batteries out before handing the bag over. Why? Because lithium batteries can overheat, smoke, or catch fire if damaged or defective. It's rare, but it happens. In the cabin, the crew can respond quickly. In the cargo hold, it's much harder. So, keep your power bank where you can reach it. Don't use swollen, damaged, or recalled batteries. And don't toss loose batteries into a bag where the terminals can rub against keys, coins, or other metal objects. Your phone battery should help you watch movies. It should not become the most exciting thing happening on the aircraft. Up until now, we've talked about rules. But this next one? This is the kind of mistake that can turn a flight into a law enforcement situation fast. A plane cabin may look simple from your seat, but it is full of safety equipment passengers should never touch. Don't open panels, don't pull handles, and don't try to fix something yourself just because you once assembled an IKEA bookshelf and now consider yourself mechanically gifted. If the overhead bin won't close or a panel looks strange, just tell the crew, and then there is the aircraft door. Never touch it. Never pull the handle mid-flight like you're trying to leave a boring office meeting. Physics-wise, you're not opening that door mid-flight because of cabin pressure, but trying it can still get you restrained, the flight diverted, law enforcement waiting when you land, and in the US, that kind of stunt can become a federal case. If you feel panicked, trapped, dizzy, anxious, or unwell, tell a flight attendant early. What they don't want is someone suddenly grabbing at a door because they waited too long to speak up. Now, not every bad airplane habit becomes a security issue. Some just make the entire cabin quietly turn against you. What's the fastest way to make strangers dislike you without saying a word? On a plane, it usually comes down to trash, feet, and space. Trash goes to the crew, not the seat pocket. Leaving wrappers, tissues, or mystery wet napkins for the next passenger is not cleaning up. It is creating a tiny crime scene. Feet stay in shoes, or at least in socks, and never walk barefoot into the lavatory. Airplane floors are not clean in the comforting way you want them to be. And then there is personal space. Your hair should not hang over the seat back. Your elbows should not start a territorial war. Your backpack should not steal someone else's legroom. And if you recline, just look behind you before you slam the seat back. If you fall asleep, try not to collapse onto a stranger's shoulder, unless you are traveling with them. The rule is simple. Don't make your comfort someone else's problem. But being a good passenger isn't just about respecting others. The next mistake is something people do to their own bodies, starting with a drink many frequent flyers think twice about. Would you drink airplane coffee if you knew where the water came from? Airplane water is regulated, sure, but some frequent flyers and crew members still think twice about coffee, tea, or anything made with onboard tap water. Those storage tanks and pipes can be hard to clean, and not everyone loves the idea of drinking from that system at 35,000 feet. So if you want to be extra cautious, choose sealed bottled water or canned drinks. Better yet, bring an empty water bottle through security and fill it at a water station before you board. It saves you from paying airport prices and keeps you from waiting on the drink cart. Cabin air can be extremely dry enough that your lips, eyes, and throat may notice it fast. And if you add too much alcohol, the fun vacation version of you can turn into the passenger the crew is quietly watching. A glass of wine with dinner or a beer during a movie is usually fine. The problem starts when passengers forget they are tired, dehydrated, and sitting in a low-humidity cabin where alcohol can hit some people harder than expected. Airlines can refuse to board passengers who appear intoxicated. They can also stop serving you on board. And if your behavior becomes disruptive, you can be removed, met by law enforcement, fined, or banned from future flights. Also, don't pour your own alcohol from a duty-free bottle on the plane. The crew has to serve it, not you. The smart move? Drink water first, alcohol slowly, and stop before you become someone else's viral video story. Even if you skip alcohol completely, there's one final thing long flights do to your body that can actually become a medical emergency if you ignore it for too long. The quietest risk on a long flight isn't turbulence. It's sitting perfectly still for hours. What happens if you stay in the same cramped position for 6, 8, or 10 hours? Your legs get stiff, your ankles swell, and your circulation slows down. And for some travelers, especially those with higher risk factors, long periods of sitting can increase the risk of blood clots. You do not need to start doing lunges in the aisle like you're training for the airport Olympics. Just move when it's safe. When the seatbelt sign is off, stand up occasionally, walk to the lavatory, or just roll your ankles and flex your feet. If you're trapped in a window seat and the person beside you is sleeping, like they've entered another dimension, do small seated movements. Point and flex your toes, or roll your shoulders. Anything is better than staying frozen for 6 hours straight. If you're pregnant, recently had surgery, have certain medical conditions, or have a history of blood clots, ask a doctor before flying and consider whether compression, socks, or other precautions make sense for you. And of course, don't get up when the seatbelt sign is on. Turbulence does not care about your stretching routine. So, what's the real takeaway? Flying doesn't have to be stressful, scary, or complicated. Most of the time, being a good passenger comes down to common sense, a little preparation, and remembering that you're sharing the space with a lot of other tired humans. The goal isn't to be a perfect passenger. It's to avoid being the passenger everyone remembers for the wrong reason. If this video helped you catch even one thing you didn't know before, hit the like button. And tell me in the comments, what's the worst airplane behavior you've ever seen in real life? Keep it clean enough for YouTube, but barely. Subscribe for more travel tips that help you fly smarter, avoid rookie mistakes, and arrive with your dignity still somewhere in your carry-on. Safe travels, and please, keep your shoes on.